We're just going to take another few minutes as we get set up here, so thanks for your patience. All right. Hi, everybody. We are going to start our informational hearing now with the Department of Transportation. This has been sort of a tradition of this committee to host these informational hearings every year to hear from our partners and agencies to understand what they have going on. This year is particular to a couple of reports that have been provided to the committee from CONDOT. And the committee had requested them, and I think together with my co-chair, we thought it would be a very good idea, and the ranking members, of course, to hear from the commissioner and deputy commissioners and those involved with these programs to understand what these report findings were and how we can use them moving forward. So we'll hear on some of these traffic safety mechanisms, including the use of the municipal automated traffic enforcement program. We'll hear today about automated enforcement on limited access highways, as well as the use of speed governors as a tool in prohibiting reckless driving. So welcome, Commissioner. I will just turn it over to my co-chair for any opening remarks.
I have no interest in delaying this any further. Carry on. Thank you.
And Senator Wong, do you have any remarks?
None at all. Look forward to hearing the commissioner and the advocacy of Vision Zero and safety. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Representative Kennedy. I don't see her. Okay. Proceed. Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner. And I know it's been a busy, busy morning for CONDOT, so thanks for being here.
Thank you. Sam, you can go to the next slide. So appreciate you inviting us in. My name is Garrett Euclido, Commissioner of Connecticut Department of Transportation. On the screen there is the agenda. So we will be briefly touching on 4 different reports that we were requested to submit to the legislature. Some are now annual reports, others are one-off reports. So I will take the first one, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues as well as UConn to touch on the last 3. So next slide. So the first one is the Automated Work Zone Speed Control Program. This is a project that was initiated several years ago, at first as a pilot. So if you go to the next slide. The objectives of Automated Work Zone Speed Control is to improve safety for everyone passing through a work zone, whether it is a driver going through a work zone or workers in that work zone. Also to ensure that we have accurate monitoring and enforcement in those work zones, make sure that our program is monitoring the results of that program, and we can improve it and ultimately produce our annual reports that we have to submit to the legislature. Next slide. So many of you remember that this was initially a pilot that was initiated several years ago under Commissioner Giletti, Governor Lamont's former Chief of Staff Paul Mounds, Carl Chisholm, who leads the MP2 CEUI union, all helped push for a pilot program that lasted a couple years. We were able to get it launched in April of 2023, and it lasted through December of 2023 in 3 locations across the state. You see on the screen there that there were a total of 24,900 warning notices that went out, but the statutory language says, your first time violating a work zone speed control location, you get a warning. Your second time, you'd get a notice of violation, so essentially a ticket in the mail. So we saw, most people do take the same routes each day, day in, day out. So once they receive that warning notice in the mail, we do believe that that caused them to pay more attention to the work zone speed control program, which had a very low recidivism rates there. You see only 750 follow-up tickets. We also saw speeds reduced through these work zones, and it says there on the work zones on I-95, speeds went down by almost 18%. Next slide. So following the pilot program, the legislature worked with us to pass permanent program that is now in law. There's some changes that were made between the pilot program and the permanent program based on what we learned through the course of the pilot. So we lowered the speed limit threshold, so the threshold that would trigger a violation. It was at 15 miles per hour. Now it's down to 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. That will trigger a violation. That is in line with the rest of the country, how they manage their work zone speed control programs. We lifted the cap on the number of locations. We also allowed us to use it in secondary roads, so where DOT maintenance workers are at work on the sides of roads, we could now use some mobile units instead of a stationary trailer-based unit. And for anyone going over 85 miles per hour through a work zone, they will not receive a warning. They will automatically receive that fine for their first offense. Next slide. So our team at Connecticut DOT is administering this program. They are very actively trying to work on public engagement. So they have a program website up and live. They have been branding the concept of Know the Zone to try and raise awareness about paying attention to work zones, because it may be enforcement going on. There's social media and media monitoring. There's analytics that will be going on, as well as press releases and advertising. In addition, before we launch in a specific location, we need to give the host community, so the municipality in which we're based, at least 2 days notice to the chief elected official, as well as have it posted on the website so it's constantly being updated. Next slide. So that is a graphic there showing the branding and the map that has locations where we're currently deployed in testing mode. We're not in activation mode yet, but we are testing and calibrating the equipment. And so that map is live on the website showing where the locations are at this time. Next slide. And this is the program schedule. So Jane, who's here today, is leading that effort for us to get this deployed. We are in the testing phase right now, and the goal is to go live by April for National Work Zone Awareness Week in April, and have those locations go live, full service, collecting information and issuing warnings and ultimately tickets. And then it would be a recurring program. And then we will continue to go back and look at the results of the program. Are there things we can do better and differently to make it more effective? The goal is to have significantly reduced speeds through the work zone. If we reach that goal, then no warnings and tickets will be issued, which is our ultimate goal. And so we do have funds provided by the legislature to administer this program, and we'll partnering with the Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as the Connecticut State Police and the Judicial Branch and Central Fractions Bureau to administer this program. So that is our first report. And now I guess, Madam Chair, would you like us to stop after each report for questions, or do all four?
I think it would be best, given the amount of time that we have, to just go through all four, and then we can collectively, because we'll probably have overlap in questions anyway.
Okay. Great. So I'm going to turn it over to our, can you go to the next slide? So I'm going to turn it over to Anna, if you can introduce yourself, and then take it away.
Good morning. My name is Anna Marmolstein. I am a new director of Office of State Traffic Administration, and I'm here to talk about Automated Traffic Enforcement Safety Device Program, or ATSD. Next slide, please. So I would like to first look at what the ATSD program is. Next slide. Connecticut legislation allows camera installations for certain enforcement, including red light violations at traffic control signals and speed cameras at school zones, pedestrian safety zones, and speed corridors. Those cameras are highly regulated by existing legislation. They can record violations, but not every person driving on the street. For violations, we record obvious license plate numbers, location, date, and time of the violation. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. So, a very important part of the program is equity. Housing Authority has established qualified census tracts, which is really determining areas with high concentrations of households either living in poverty or below median income. For those areas which are documented on the map, legislation limits number of cameras to 2 locations per normal QCT or 1 location if area is really small, by which I mean it's less than 1/4 square mile. In addition, when ASTA reviews proposed camera locations, we want to make sure that cameras are not proposed along the borders. So we are making sure that distribution is also equitable, even if cameras are outside of QCT. Next slide, please. Approval of proposed cameras and the whole process is divided between municipalities and ASTA. Obviously, municipalities do most of the work. They create the plan, select locations, establish enforcement ordinances. They also need to create maintenance and training protocol. They have to conduct public awareness campaign, and they are responsible for reporting. ASTA reviews plans and locations. We need to make sure that proposed locations are safe and equitable. Once locations are approved, ASTA posts approved plans on the Connecticut DOT website, and ASTA also provides yearly report to the legislation. Next slide, please. So what happens with cameras actually installed? Cameras record violations, which are then sent to a human for review. This could be a municipal police officer, or it could be an employee designated by local traffic authority and properly trained. Obviously, we want to make sure that those employees are trained. Once person determines that violation did occur, a notice will be sent to the owner of the vehicle. In the first 30 days, those are just notices, but after 30 days, municipality can issue fines. First violation requires $50 fine, and all the next violations are $75 fines. All the funds stay with the municipality, and legislation regulates how they can be spent. As you can see, they can be used to improve transportation mobility, invest in transportation infrastructure, or pay for cameras. Next slide, please. So reporting is actually quite comprehensive. I have all the details on the slide, but pretty much municipalities are responsible to provide report to Transportation Committee and ASTA. After first 18 months from the ATSD becoming operational, a comprehensive report, which includes violations and crashes that occurred before and actually after camera installation, leased, rented, and out-of-state vehicles for which enforcement was not successful, collected revenue, cost of using the cameras, and how revenue from fines has been used, has to be reported to legislation and ASTA. After the first report, and as long as camera remain operational, municipality has to submit annual reports to provide information of number of vehicles subjected to citations and how many per vehicle, measures municipality taken to improve roadway conditions, and also how many citations were issued, how many hearings were needed, and what were the results of those hearings. Next slide, please. Let's look at what's actually happening, what has been approved. Next slide. So on the screen, you can see all the approved municipalities. We have approved total of 11 municipalities with 63 locations. And in the last 6 months, we have approved 5 municipalities with 42 locations. So over 2/3 of all locations have been approved in the last 6 months. Next slide, please. We have received reports from the 3 municipalities which had ATSDs operational for at least 6 months. Middletown provided the most comprehensive data. Middletown has 3 locations approved. As you can see, all 3 have significant improves in speeds. Table on the bottom has 85th percentile speeds, which means 85% of vehicles are driving at that speed or slower. And as you can see, we have excellent improvement. On Route 66, we went from 58 miles per hour to 41 miles per hour. 35 is posted, so we're still above, but it's a great improvement. At Spencer School, we were able to achieve posted speeds for 85% of drivers. And at Country Club Road, it's not as good, but also excellent improvement. And as you can see on the graphs, not just people driving just over 10 miles per hour, but also those who are driving at least 20 miles per hour over the posted speed limits. The number of those vehicles have decreased dramatically. Also, Middletown Police has reported that they're very happy with results. They are seeing significant drop in repeat offenders. In the first couple of months, there were a lot of people with 2-3 tickets. Now this number has dropped a lot. And based on numbers, they have issued 65,000 citations since July 2025 for a total of $2.8 million. Not all of this has been collected. Based on what I've seen, about 75% of fines have been collected to date, but it takes time to process. Next slide, please. For the other 2 towns, we don't have as comprehensive data, unfortunately, but those are smaller communities. Washington has 3 locations approved. Cameras became operational in May, and between May and December, they were able to collect, issue citations for $662,000 for 13.4 thousand violators. It's for 3 cameras. In Marlboro, we only have 1 camera approved. We don't have no amount of fines, but 6.5 thousand citations were issued. And both towns have also reported that they're very happy with the program. They have seen drop in speeds, they have seen improved drivers' behavior, and able to relocate police resources to other places. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all of that. Next up.
Good morning. My name is Natasha Fatu. I'm a transportation engineer at the Department of Transportation, working in the Division of Traffic Engineering, and I am the state safety engineer. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about potential benefits associated with permitting the use of speed safety cameras on Connecticut's state highways and other state maintained roads. As you have just heard, the speed enforcement cameras are already impacting driver behavior and making a safety difference on our roadways. Next slide, please. Public Act 25-65 tasked CONDOT to examine potential expansion of these cameras, not to pre-decide deployment, but to evaluate safety needs, legal gaps, and implementation considerations. Our analysis shows several important gaps that limit our ability to address known high-risk corridors. There is no authority to use speed safety cameras on limited access highways outside of active work zones. Municipal automated traffic enforcement authority does not extend to interstates. High-risk state corridors with persistent speeding or severe crash history remain ineligible for automated enforcement. And CONDOT also has no authority to deploy cameras on state-maintained secondary roadways, even where the data strongly supports their use. The goal is to close those narrow but critical gaps with targeted authority focused on the highest risk locations. Next slide, please. Speeding is a national safety issue, and Connecticut is no exception. Nationally, about 29% of all traffic fatalities involve speeding, according to 2023 National Highway Traffic Safety Administration data. Connecticut's share of speeding-related fatalities is higher than the national average, with about 34% of our traffic deaths involving speeding in 2023, and we're ranked at number 14 in the nation. The physics explain why. Crash energy increases with speed, and small increases in speed create disproportionately severe outcomes. Enforcement is fundamentally about reducing crash severity, not just issuing citations. Next slide, please. Speed safety cameras are not experimental, as they are widely used across the US and internationally and have been extensively studied. Research summarized by the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety shows major reduction in drivers exceeding the speed limit by greater than 10 miles per hour and 44% fewer fatal and serious injury crashes. Next slide, please. Connecticut's crash analysis from 2022 to 2024 shows speeding plays a large role in total crashes. On limited access highways, roughly 31% of fatal crashes involve speeding. On non-limited access highway state roads, about 24% of fatal crashes involve speeding. And for injury crashes, speeding is present in about 13.5% of limited access highway crashes and 7.5% of non-limited access highway state crashes. Higher speed facilities may have fewer crashes overall, but when a crash happens, it is much more likely to be severe or fatal. Next slide, please. Connecticut's limited access highways and key state corridors are exactly the environments where this tool, safety speed cameras and point-to-point enforcement, are the most effective. These roads carry high traffic volumes at higher sustained speeds. They also have controlled or more limited access and at times more complicated geometry. These are the conditions that speed safety cameras are very well suited for. Next slide, please. Connecticut DOT maintains roughly 3,700 miles of state roadway, and our data-driven screening confirms that speeding on these facilities is often persistent. Traditional enforcement can be challenging because it requires personal presence. In the absence of personnel, the speeding returns. It can be difficult to conduct safely. It's dependent on the location. Traffic stops can create secondary risks for our state troopers as well as passing motorists. And finally, it cannot be sustained continuously. Benefits of the speed safety cameras provide this consistent compliance without traffic stops or additional roadside risk. Next slide, please. As noted earlier, deployment can be based on data-driven screening methodology. As an example for discussion today, our team reviewed the limited access highways around Hartford, and this is what we found. Critical crash rates, which is a measure that helps determine if a specific location on a road has a higher than average number of crashes compared to similar locations, were used to identify high-risk locations, and actual operating speeds were compared to posted speed limits. Among the highest risk segments, several show sustained speeds 10 to 20 miles per hour or more over the posted speed limit. The displayed map graphically summarizes this. Next slide, please. We also reviewed the patterns, and notice from this example include high crash rate locations frequently overlap with high speed differentials, demonstrating that severe crashes correlate with persistent speeding behavior rather than random variation. These are precisely the locations where automated enforcement can operate safely and influence behavior over distance, and to target high crash locations where speed is a substantial contributing factor. Next slide, please. This example here illustrates a typical high-speed interchange environment: complex geometry, limited enforcement space, and sustained travel speeds. These are the types of locations where automated enforcement can operate safely without traffic stops. Next slide, please. Speed safety cameras are suited to these facilities because they safely monitor high-speed state roadways, influence behavior over distance, improve safety without disrupting traffic flow. They're consistent and scalable enforcement and is proven to reduce speed and severe crashes. The Federal Highway Administration guidance recognizes speed safety cameras as a proven safety countermeasure, which reinforces that this approach is consistent with national best practice. Next slide, please. CONDOT's recommendation is carefully structured, performance-based speed safety camera program for state roadways. Key elements of the approach include establishing program framework and safeguards, establish clear policies, roles, and interagency coordination, ensure compliance with legal requirements and protection for motorists, data-driven deployment and operational processes, public outreach and transparency, monitoring and reporting, tracking changes in speed behavior and crash severity at deployment sites, and periodically report findings and adjust deployment based on performance. Next slide, please. Speeding remains a significant factor in Connecticut's most severe crashes, particularly on our state highways. Traditional enforcement alone cannot adequately address sustained corridor-wide speeding on these facilities. Targeted authorization for speed safety cameras on state roadways would provide a data-driven, nationally validated tool to reduce severe crashes, save lives, and improve safety for everyone who travels on Connecticut's highest risk corridors. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much for that. This is all so thorough. I have a feeling the questions are going to be flooding in. We have a number of committee members who have joined us as well, so just be prepared. So we have one more report, correct? And is that
Yes.
back to you?
Yeah, Yukon, I believe, should be on the line. I believe Elena and...
I do see Elena.
Okay.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. May I ask if people can hear me well?
We can.
Awesome, thank you. Um, Yep. So I will briefly walk through the main findings of the ISA feasibility study. And before I move past the title slide, I would like to remind you that when we say ISA, we mean active ISA devices, so systems that physically limit acceleration, because automakers often market their safety features as intelligent speed assistance, but those are always advisory or passive systems, not active ones. And at this time, the only devices that can physically limit speed are available through the aftermarket. Next slide, please. I apologize, the slides look strange. This is probably a formatting issue. I'm sorry, but I will continue.
Yeah, they look fine here. So.
Okay, yeah, at least we can see the text. So we were tasked to examine 4 specific questions: whether active ISA improves safety, what types of systems are available, what implementation would cost, and whether these devices function accurately and reliably in everyday unsupervised use. Next slide. And the first large pilots go back roughly 20 to 25 years. And from very beginning, they all showed the same pattern. Once ISA physically limits acceleration, speeding drops almost immediately. And in the full report, I provide detailed statistics from international studies, but here I will focus only on the most recent ones. And the 2 most complete and up-to-date pilots are London and New York. In London, ISA was installed in 2 bus roads operating in 20 and 30 mile per hour zones. The results were pretty clear. In the 20-mile zones, speeding dropped from about 18% of driving time down to just 1 to 3%. And in the 30-mile zone, speeding went almost to zero. In New York, ISA was installed on about 500 city vehicles on 25 mile per hour streets. Speeding went down by about 50%, and on 50 mile per hour roads, it went down by about 82%. So both pilots point to the same conclusion. When ISA is active, severe speeding drops by tens of percent, and it works across a large mixed urban fleet with no major operational downsides. Next slide, please. Active ISA can work in a couple of different ways, but the most common approach is a throttle limiter. That means once the vehicle reaches the speed limit, the system simply doesn't allow more acceleration, but the driver still brakes and steers normally. The only real limitation is that the system cannot apply braking or hold the vehicle on downhill segments. So it can only limit acceleration. Because of that, brief overspeeding on steep declines is possible if the driver allows it. Next slide, please. Overall, there is a very little publicly available cost information. The London pilot only described the system as a reasonable cost measure, and New York spent about $1,500 per vehicle. I also received a quote from Lifesaver, one of the providers, and they offer their device on a subscription basis. The cost ranges from $75 to $150 per month, depending on several factors like installation complexity, fleet size, contract duration, and so on. Next slide, please. Active ISA works well in practice, but its accuracy depends on 2 things. First, how precise the GPS positioning is, and second, how accurate and up-to-date the digital speed maps are. In terms of reliability, large pilots show that the technology holds up well in real fleet operations. And finally, temper resistance. Active ISA devices use sealed hardware, locked configuration settings, and telematics to record anything unusual, including every override activation. And these protections make it hard to tamper with the system and make it clear when something unusual happens. Next slide, please. Some conclusions. Across all major pilots, Active ISA consistently cuts severe speeding by 50% or more. Systems rely on accurate digital maps, and they can't apply braking, so brief overspeeding on downhill segments is still possible. But overall, ISA has proven reliable, hard to tamper with, and well suited for everyday fleet use. So the bottom line is that Active ISA is capable of delivering meaningful safety benefits. Last slide, please. Yeah, the final slide shows our contact information, my email and Dr. Jackson's email. We will be happy to answer any questions you may have after meeting or maybe now. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you all. Really appreciate all of this information. It is a lot of information. Did you want to say any more before I go into questions?
No, Madam Chair, I appreciate the opportunity to present on all 4 of those reports and happy to answer any questions.
I'm sure there will be other questions. I do have some myself, as you might imagine. So in terms of I'll start with the municipal traffic enforcement, and I'm curious, in the locations that have been installed for more than 6 months, I think you said there were 6 of those locations.
Three
Three.
municipalities.
Okay. Middletown, Washington, and Marlboro.
Correct.
Okay, I saw those highlighted, but for some reason I thought you said 6 were 6 months. So I'm curious, you mentioned the improvement in secondary, like the second violations. So those have gone down. I'm wondering, have we seen in those locations the total number of infractions reducing? So you would anticipate when you first
Yes.
install, okay.
Yes.
Do we have any information on by how much? There's been a lot of attention around Middletown.
I have
purely
a
because
report
it's-
from Middletown for Route 66 only because the other two cameras have been activated later. It has been a revision to initial approval.
Okay,
I would have to look at it.
that's
I
fine. I'm just
apologize.
curious if we have some data, and I'd be curious with the other locations too, even though they're obviously much smaller, if we're seeing, once folks recognize that there are cameras in place, despite the law saying that there needs to be, some warning and notification as you approach those devices, clearly folks aren't slowing down for them because there's infractions being issued. So I'm just wondering if time takes care of that a little bit to some extent. And so I'd be curious about that data. I'm also curious, you mentioned that particular to Middletown, it seems about 75% of the infractions have been, or the tickets have been collected. Does that insinuate that remaining 25% is still being adjudicated, or they've been appealed, or does that just mean people haven't paid them?
It could be all of those conditions.
Okay.
Obviously, well, I only received an Excel file from Middletown, so I don't really have all the information. However, it is my understanding that it takes time to send out the citation, and we provide certain period of time for the person to pay the fine, which would explain why there is a delay between, violation being recorded and fine being received. I would expect that there is a certain number of drivers who are not going to pay the fines, which is why this is the information we are requesting in the reports.
Okay.
Obviously, we haven't received 18 months report because it has been in operation since June, late June, very late June, so that's why we're looking July. I am also very curious to know that. As far as number of citations, I'm trying to see, I have the file open right now.
I'd also be curious while you're looking at that, and again, this is digging into town data, but wondering what percentage are being appealed. I think that
I don't
would
have
be.
that yet.
You don't have that yet. Okay.
No.
But we can ask
We
the
can ask.
3 municipalities.
We can request the information and provide it.
Okay.
Right now, I am seeing decrease in events. I'm also seeing that not all events have been reviewed by municipality, which could possibly be related that some of it, especially in the beginning, I would have to ask for a clarification because I'm seeing a discrepancy between event recorded and event reviewed. It could indicate that municipality found that some recordings were not correct
Yep.
and decided not to pursue them, or it could be anything else. I'll have to ask.
Okay, that's fine. Just know that I think the committee would be interested in having that data and better understanding it, especially as we sort of look to whether or not we'll be using the speed safety cameras on limited access highways and how the program would look at on a more expanded, enhanced level. So I'd be interested in seeing that data. I'm also curious if of these municipalities that have employed these automated traffic devices, are you hearing from them that they need more flexibility with the use of the funds that they're obtaining from the citations?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
and I think to
Correct.
clarify on that, they've asked us for clarifying. They've asked us what is an eligible use, I believe, Anna, right? And
Correct.
we've made clear that's not really our role. We don't have input on that. The statute is the statute. I think it's more appropriate for them to speak to the committee who, passed the bill. It's signed into law. And if there needs to be clarification, they can come to the committee of cognizance for that, because we don't have the jurisdiction in the statute to determine what's an eligible use or not.
Right.
But that's what the reporting mechanism will enable you all to see, is how are they using the money.
Right. That will be fantastic. And I do think, in conversations together with Representative Berger-Javallo, I think, the intention is that it's broad enough to allow for a number of uses when it comes to roadways and enhancing, sort of thinking in terms of complete streets type programming. So I think that's what I would want municipal leaders to know, but we should hear from them and understand what they're looking for, and also know that as we pass that legislation, that we really wanted to be mindful that this wasn't a money grab. This is really truly about slowing people down, and helping our municipalities to do that, enhancing and working with law enforcement. And that sort of brings me into my next question on the more broader scale. Natasha, maybe you could answer this for me. Some of those stats that you gave are not stats I like to hear. I hate that, we hear, we're third in drunk driving, or all of these stats, now 14 and speed-related fatalities. That's very concerning, and we obviously want to address that. I think it's been our priority, and I feel like our charge as a committee to work in partnership with CONDOT and make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to get to that sort of vision zero, right? No deaths on our roadways. I think that this, when we started thinking about this and we saw how well these automated enforcement devices were working in slowing people down, we really wanted to take a look at more broadly. Like, we know other states haven't done this, but why aren't they doing it? This technology is in existence. We know law enforcement can't be everywhere all the time. We know we have a problem here in the state of Connecticut. And can we use these devices in these areas that seem to show us that there's some patterns in terms of reckless driving, whether it's because there's, it's a straightaway or whatever. There's clearly some, and you even in your slideshow pointed to a location, I think on 84, that would be really well served by something like this. Is there any federal approval required, or is this something that we could implement? Maybe we do it on a pilot program basis, to begin with, as we did with the automated work zones, work zone safety cameras. But is there something that you can see would be required of us from a federal standpoint?
There's no federal requirement or approval requirement. There are some communities that are using it in the nation effectively. Arizona is one of them, and Washington, D.C. has had very good luck with their speed camera installations. So there is no federal approval requirement.
So in Arizona, DC less so, because DC we all know is unique. They'd like to not be unique in that regard, but they are. So Arizona, they have implemented these on limited access highways, or more like a municipal program like we have?
More on state roadways, and it's some of the communities in Arizona. There's also Colorado, and I can get some more information of if there are states primarily using them on the limited access highways, but they are using them on the state roadways that have those higher speeds.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really think initially when we had talked about this early on, we were thinking that this is problematic for law enforcement, but in fact, we've heard from law enforcement that they actually like this as an enhanced tool to, allow them to be in other places and monitoring other things when there are known instances, out there on our limited access highways that we could, have these employed, implemented, and doing the good work to slow people down. And again, I think we really have to be in the mindset of what can we do to slow people down? What can we do to save lives? And less about the monetary aspect of this. And that's why I think I want to know if, in the municipalities where these have been deployed, whether we're starting to see a decline in the number of citations issued. Because I would hope that would be the case, right? People start to get to know, oh, okay, there's traffic cameras or speed cameras out here. We're being monitored. We're going to slow down. I would hope that people would slow down anyway, but they don't. So
I found some data if
Oh.
you're still interested.
sure, yeah.
So, Middletown, Route 66 only. First of all, we do have significant decrease in the number of citations recorded and issued, about 50% decrease since July to January.
50.
Yes. In addition, what we're seeing, there was significant drop in repeat offenders finally in January, even though there was a spike August through September. I guess as they collected fines, but it looks like they're finally getting sick of paying them. As far as payments, 70, upper 70% are for fines issued in the summer. For fines issued in January, there is about 50% payment, but there is time given to a person to pay the fine or to go to court. As far as disputing the fines, what I'm seeing for appeals, they picked in September 4,140 total appeals, with courts, saying that most of them still have to pay the fines. Only 48 out of 4,000 were found not liable. And that's
48 out of 4,000.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's similar percentage. Actually, in the beginning, first couple of months, in July, I'm seeing 2,376 appealing and 73 found not liable. But as time progressed, I assume, employees got better training and everybody else.
Okay.
In January, I'm seeing 500 appeals with 46 found not liable. So percentage of not liable is up, but not total
But
number.
that's because that's also the number of citations is down. Okay.
Correct.
That's interesting. If you can share some of that data, that'd be great.
Yes.
So that we've got
course.
people in and out of committee meetings here today. So that would be great. And obviously $2.8 million is a lot of money in a sort of short amount of time. It shows what it highlights what a problem that speeding is in the area, clearly. But also I'm curious, have they earmarked those dollars for anything, or have them, do you know if Middletown has any plans in terms of?
We don't know the specifics. However, I want to add that ATSD program itself is not cheap. And
Right.
so, and most of the cost is actually paying salaries of the police officers reviewing the reports. So what I'm seeing in January, program total collected in January, they collected $1.3 million. Again, I would have to verify this report. I did not prepare. This is just a spreadsheet. But they spent $800,000 on paying salaries and maintaining equipment. So it's not as much.
Right. Which again, this program isn't meant to be a moneymaker, but if dollars are coming in and they have the program paid for, whether staff or the adjudication appeal process, all of that is then paid for, the cameras, then above and beyond should be used for do you have something?
And Anna, just to clear, so the report that they submit 18 months after it becomes operational, that will delineate how they spend the money,
course.
correct? Yeah.
And actually, I'm blind. I looked at the wrong number. 2.3 millions have been submitted, and 1.3 is remaining. I'm sorry, I have to zoom in, and now
Yeah.
I'm not seeing
That's
everything.
that's fine. Again,
So-
we're asking questions that maybe you wouldn't have anticipated,
I-
or I'm asking questions that maybe you wouldn't have anticipated. So I appreciate that. And
So there is significant expense, but there is also revenue.
okay. And my last question, I see others have questions, and it's just so much data, and it's exciting for us when there's something that comes back to us that we had requested, and we want to be able to take action on potentially, and we want to get it right. So in terms of the ISAs, the Intelligent Speed Assistance, and I don't know if Elena wants to answer this or Commissioner. I understand that the cost of these devices is somewhere between $75 and $150. I wonder if you know how this compares to alcohol interlock devices in terms of cost.
Elena, do you know that?
Oh, Elena, you are on mute, so I see your lips moving, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize, but I haven't studied anything related to alcohol devices, and so
Okay.
I do not
And
have this information.
To be clear, you're not expected to, but that's useful information for the committee as we determine whether or not to install, have this be part of a rehabilitation program, if you will, for reckless driving. We would want to know, we require the alcohol interlock devices if you get a DUI, if we are going to require that there are speed limiters installed, we would want to know that that this is a comparable price or something, so that we're not out of line here on this.
Yeah, I'll follow up with the Department of Motor Vehicles per se attorneys following this and report back to the committee the comparison.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. In terms of other states using this as a device, did we say Virginia was one of
Yes, Virginia, Washington State, I believe they going to officially start their program in 2027, but in Virginia it works right now. I believe maybe Washington, D.C. is doing something as well.
I remember that too. Okay, great. Thank you. I see. Oh, yes, my co-chair. Of course, I'm going right to online. Sorry about that.
Not even a little bit offended, given the mania today. Thank you all so much. This has all been really thorough. I'm going to try really hard to just kind of fire some quick questions out so that we get to other people. And I think I'm going to work backwards. Regarding the safety speed cameras on the highways, do you know if there are any data points that address equity? I know that was a big part of what we did when we talked about putting them in municipal spaces, the QCT, all of the other measures that we took to ensure that there would not be any imbalance in equity. And it's okay if you don't have any information on that, but maybe that's something that we can look more closely at together.
Yeah, I don't have any information, but I can look to see if we have any.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much. I know that's a huge piece for our committee members, and it's something that that we work very hard to ensure is addressed. Okay, working backwards, automated safety devices. I think my co-chair asked most of the questions that I had. Is there any location where there hasn't been a measurable drop in speed that we've seen so far?
Well, every location which has reported indicated that they have seen significant drop in speeds. A lot of locations have been just installed. For example, we coordinated with Greenwich. Their cameras have been operated for less than 2 months. They said they have seen improvement, but in the first couple of months, that's where people learn. Plus, in Greenwich, $75 fine is not similar to Middletown.
That's fair. And we'll definitely look more closely at that once we hit that 18-month space, but, versus 2 months. That's not a great measure for anything. So, terrific. Moving backwards into overall traffic safety. One question that I wanted to ask you, Commissioner, when we first talked about work zone speed cameras, it was often mentioned how frequently there were collisions with the actual work vehicles, the safety vehicles. Have you seen a drop in that at all?
So not necessarily. So we don't have them active right now, right? It's in testing mode, but we are seeing. So it's gathering data. But during the pilot program, we did see reduced speeds. We saw reduced frequency of crashes occurring in those work zones. We didn't necessarily have them deployed in many of the Connecticut DOT maintenance work zones because it was focused largely on interstate highways and in active construction zones, whereas now the new program will be on maintenance work zones to protect our workers. We did have last year, we had over 100 100 times people crashed into our work vehicles, our trucks.
My co-chair said it exactly. Wow. Okay, so then also regarding the work zone speed cameras, you said 2 days notice to municipalities, is that correct? Have you received any complaints from municipalities about the amount of notice or about placement, or has there been any pushback?
Not yet. Jane's shaking her head. No, we did send out. Jane sends them out. So. You can't hear. But yeah, so Jane sends them out. They get via email. We did when we placed them for the data gathering phase. They were a little like, wait, they're ticketing already. But Jane clarified for the municipalities, nope, it's just data collection.
Yep. And I've been sending them out via email to the first selectman or the mayor of the towns, and I do get an email back saying they received them. If there are any questions, there's an email address, knowthezone@ct.gov, which I monitor, or my email or phone numbers in there so they can easily ask me the questions. But so far, no. I've sent 4 out this past week for West Haven, Hartford, Colchester, and Meriden. So there's 4 more deployments that will be going out this week. We have 3 more stationary units that are actually being delivered on Friday to our Pascone Place facility for testing. We have 1 mobile unit, which we're looking on getting into some testing on right now. Basically, there are 3 out there right now. They're in soft deployment mode. So basically, it's end to end. They're actually looking through and going through the whole phase, issuing that fractures are not going out to anybody, but they're actually going end-to-end testing to see what it looks like. So that's what we're doing, and coordinating with the vendor, doing back office, making sure everything, because we want everything perfect, making sure we can read the license plates, things like that, the evidentiary packages that go to the desk and that go to the CIB. So we've been working through that. April 1st is the actual go live when we actually start doing infractions.
Thank you so much. Your team always just has the answers right at their fingertips. It's pretty impressive. Then the last piece that I wanted to ask about, and this could be across all of your groups here, the data collection. So we're getting reports in 18 months in some cases, and reviewing all of this a year later after implementing. I just wanted to reassure our colleagues on the committee, but the personal data is still being deleted at the statutory prescribed time, correct?
For the automatic work zone speed camera program, that's correct. It's very clear in the law about the dates by which the data has to be discarded, deleted, and it's really only kept to allow time for people to appeal that. If we discarded it before they could appeal, it would hinder their ability to appeal.
Fantastic, exactly what we wanted to hear. And then I did have one more that I didn't realize that I wanted to have answered, and this is your full equipment deployment you're expecting now to have. What's the number of units?
So our contract has up to 15 units in the contract. And then we have some spares in case they get damaged. So we probably won't do 15 at once to start because we're going to have to see the workload on Jane and the team. But yeah, it's 15 in the contract.
Terrific. Thank you so much for all
Yep.
of that.
Actually, they'll have 10 mobile stationary units, and they're actually going to have 2 spare stationary units because if things get hit, and actually our plows did just recently damage one of the housings on the cameras on one of the units, and they will have 5 mobile units and 1 spare mobile unit. So that's just the start.
Terrific. Thank you. You got to be careful you're not cannibalizing your own crew there. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Back to my co-chair.
Thank you. And I see the good ranking member, Senator Wong, has a question, followed by Representative Farrar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner Ugolino, it's always great to see you. And thank you for you and your team's constant availability and resource to us as a committee member. It's really appreciated. And I want to give a special thanks to your roadway snow removal crew from our latest storm. You only get the attention when you don't do a good job, but I wanted to acknowledge your members that are out there cleaning our roads after the snowstorm. So thank you. Great work on that.
Thank you, Senator. I see
Yep.
you have snow in the background there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Let's hope it all melts. But my question is in regards to Vision Zero. You have been a passionate advocate, in fact, if not using the word visionary, in persuading the committee and the leadership and the General Assembly to implement a lot of the issues that you're presenting to us today. So I think we're focused on infrastructure, lights, the speed cameras and roadway consideration and complete streets, and also enforcement. I think one of the questions I had was, and I think the governor said it repeatedly, is you can't teach common sense, and one of the challenges that we have is the public service announcements, the kind of courtesy on the road. We've seen an increased kind of anger on our roadways and recklessness on our roadways. Can you offer some aspect in regards to roadway safety that you're focused on as well, and also in combination to that question, it's also the increase of impairment with not only marijuana, but as we saw in a recent report that you shared with the state police, that there are other substances impacting impairment on our roads, and also the fact of kind of roadway enforcement of young drivers and being able to teach them some of the protocols without being distracted and impaired.
Thank you for the question, Senator. You're correct. It really is an all of the above approach when it comes to safety. If you want to get to 0 deaths and serious injuries on the roadway, it's all of the above. So it's what can we do to improve the infrastructure? What can we do to educate individuals? What can we do to address the behavior behind the wheel? That's where our law enforcement community is critical. Natasha and I talk quite a bit about the safe systems approach, which is, humans make mistakes. So if a human makes a mistake, what other nets are there to catch them, right? If they are drowsy behind the wheel, what are we doing to the infrastructure to ensure that that mistake doesn't end up killing them or seriously injuring them? And similarly, if it's a drunk driver, what is the infrastructure going to do to mitigate the potential harm? So, law enforcement plays a role in that. We are training drug recognition experts. We are enhancing the capabilities of the state lab to do full screenings of blood and other bodily fluids to see what substances are there. But the education campaign, through the support of the legislature, we are doing increased education on all forms, whether it's on pedestrian safety, vulnerable user safety, the left lane law now, those ads are now live, cannabis education campaigns about driving high as a DUI. So we really trying to blanket everywhere. And through social media, you can really micro-target ads now to really reach those target audiences that are most at risk. So, the seatbelt ads are targeted at men 18 to 34 because they're the most likely to not be wearing a seatbelt. So we're able to target it appropriately.
Thank you. And I think there's a balance, right? As a supporter of Vision Zero, we've gotten some criticism in regards to some of the inconveniences, some of the encroachment on civil liberties, and the challenge that may happen in regards to the overall goal of safety. And we use data. We use some of the critical that you provided in the Yukon report to be able to provide us. And I think that's one of the challenging things we have to look at in regards to future legislation is any easing of it for potential convenience. It's got to be measured against some of the safety considerations and the philosophy and the goal of Vision Zero to ensure that we are ensuring safety all the way through at the risk of some of the potential inconveniences. Would that be fair to say that as we impose legislatively and policy wise some of the protocols for roadway safety, we're going to have to make some bit of compromise to ensure that the greater goal is far more important, which is zero fatalities and zero danger on our roadways.
Yeah, Senator. I mean, you can be the safest driver in the world, and you're still at risk every single day, getting behind the wheel because others around you may not be adhering to safe driving standards. And so it's a social compact when you get behind the wheel that you are going to protect yourself, but also protect the lives of those who are on the roadside around you. And so we all need to work together to protect one another when we're out there on the roads, because it is extremely dangerous on the roadways when you compare to aviation or other modes of transportation, which have much better safety standards.
I appreciate that, and this is obviously roadway safety, but I want to compliment you and your team for the broad aspects of transportation. We had the public transit authority present, and I appreciate what we did last year and the Department of Transportation hosting their communication. So I want to extend my thank you, and I want to give a shout out to my ranking and to my chair, because we have been truly collaborative and bipartisan in recognizing that roadway safety and transportation is not a partisan issue. So I want to thank you for your leadership, but I also wanted to give a shout out to my chairs and ranking members for their great work and collaboration. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator, and I concur. It is a great and successful partnership and collaboration always. Representative Farrar. You're on mute.
I got it. Thanks, Commissioner, and the whole team. I appreciate it. A few follow-up questions. With the work zone program going into fuller implementation, with the structure of the citations and the fines, is that revenue simply going back in to fully implement the program?
So the revenue, if there is net revenue, it would go into the Special Transportation Fund.
Okay.
It is expensive to administer the program, so we'll see. We did lose a lot of money during the pilot program.
Yeah.
Which was good because it was effective, right? The structure of issuing warnings first and resetting it after a year, results in many warnings, and then hopefully you have significant reductions in repeat offenders. So we'll see. But yes, the money the statute has it go back into the Special Transportation Fund. We have a separate budgetary item specifically for the implementation of this program.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then this somewhat gets at the work zone cameras, but also the initial data we've seen from municipalities. I'm curious if, especially with those 3 towns that you mentioned, have had at least the 6 months of analysis. I believe one of the towns did not institute fines, just citations. Is that correct?
No, it's just that I don't have data.
You don't have data from the town that just did the citations.
Correct.
Okay, that's super helpful because it gets to
The difference.
Okay.
Just towns were not responsive enough to provide all the data we asked for.
Got it.
Town. So, and they're not required to provide reports until 18 months, so I cannot really force them. I can just ask.
Thank you again for clarifying that, because I think, again, something that would be helpful to us is understanding, again, the differences around the speed reduction based on the citation versus the level of the fine. And as you said, hopefully we can get more of that information as this progresses. And then finally, with the municipality implementation with the cameras, I know, there had been some concerns that with federal grant cuts that other municipalities might not take up the opportunity for installation. And I was wondering if you all have heard any concerns from municipalities about some federal grant cuts and how that might affect their ability to do this program.
Not that I'm aware of. I think almost every municipality except for I believe one is implementing it without federal grants. There's only one that has a federal grant tied to implementation. The rest are all doing it on their own by partnering with a private sector partner.
Okay, thank you for that, because we want to make sure that doesn't get in the way of further municipalities pursuing this. And I just want to thank the good Chairwoman Senator Cohen for her comments on the information related to proposing what a speed camera program could look like on our limited access highways, and fully support your idea, Senator Cohen, around pursuing a pilot program. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairs.
Thank you, Representative. I don't see any other questions or comments. I just want to say thank you so much for being here today, for doing such diligent work in not only in this programming, but in just the research that goes into developing a program. I really appreciate it. As my co-chair pointed out, you always seem to have the answers, which we've come to rely upon. So don't stop doing what you're doing. It's fantastic. And we look forward to a partnership moving forward as we try to work out some of the details and look to potentially create a pilot around these speed safety devices. So thank you, and recognize that we went over today. We were delayed in our start, so really, and know how busy you are. So thank you for your flexibility. I don't know if my co-chair has any final thoughts.
Everyone drive safely.
Any final thoughts there, Senator Wong?
No, ma'am. Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And that concludes our informational hearing. Thanks so much.